Happy Monday afternoon, everybody, and thanks for checking in. Fresh new week, Traded Black Podcast. I'm your host, sdales. Big podcast here today. We got Jesse Channon, David Hart, senior leadership on for the Cannabis Company Holdings, followed by Matt Darin from Curaleaf to talk about their latest earnings, and finally MSO Mondays with Dan Ahren to talk about some news that came out today, including Ohio. Sounds like adult use may be happening sooner rather than later for some companies. So let's dive right in to today's podcast because it's action-packed with a lot of big-name guests. Let's welcome in TDR co-host Anthony Varell. Good to see you. Happy Monday.
Good to see you. Yeah, happy Monday. It's been overall positive so far.
Yeah. I know we'll dive into the Ohio news, but that obviously was very positive for the industry right now because I know after speaking with Dan, the chart man, on Friday, there were some concerns about just liquidity and the lack of it. And now we're heading into the summer months, but let's all be calm as we look at just pure business operations, fundamentals. It's been a great earnings season, I think, for the most part, for a lot of companies. So all in all as well, I think long-term for this industry and obviously getting some good news to Ohio today, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was good news. It was expected, but it was good news. It's been good to see margin expansion in a lot of the MSOs footprints. I mean, there's been a lot to like so far this earnings season. I think we have a couple more coming out this week with Cresco and Air. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into it with the Cannabis and then with Curaleaf.
Yeah, so let's jump into it. Let's welcome in the CEO of the Cannabis Company Holdings, David Hart, along with the president, Jesse Channon, back to the podcast. Good day, gentlemen. How are things?
It's another Monday. It's great. How are you guys?
It's another Monday, right? Yeah, listen, it's been, I know, a busy couple of days for you guys. And I know we want to highlight, obviously, some of the latest earnings as well as some of the news, just with people online talking about New York and the operations. But let's first begin with your latest earnings. David, I'll start with you. You reported just over $122 million of revenue in the first quarter. Gross profit was $42.5 million. Narrowed loss shrunk more than half from over $72 million in the previous quarter down to $34.5 million. So, look, I know you and I, and along with Jesse, have had a lot of conversations on a lot of podcasts this year that this year is all about transition and changes that you guys are making. So, based on these latest numbers, our viewers are watching and paying close attention. They want this company and this story to succeed. How confident are you, based on the changes that you've made, that your plan is on track?
It's a great question. I think we demonstrated some green shoots in the quarter, which we highlighted. We are changing the business, and it's going to take a couple quarters to change. But you can see the improvements in the financials even in the first quarter. So we highlighted a few things. One, the dramatic change in the margin profile for our wholesale business. Again, I think Jess has even highlighted this is about building a better business, not a bigger business, and that fundamentally plays right into what we're doing with the wholesale business. We also saw an improvement in the retail side as well, so a more disciplined approach to margins. And so, when you look at where we are today versus where we started in January, we've done a lot behind the scenes to improve this business. The focus, again, is margin enhancement, cash flow generation. That takes a couple quarters. This is a big ship. I think people forget how many markets we're in. We've exited a couple markets over the last 6 months. We're out of Utah. We're out of Missouri. And you can see in our disclosed information, we continue to see operational income coming from a concentrated number of our markets, a number of facilities. So we're very focused on winning where we continue to have market share and scale, and we're evaluating the entire portfolio. So it's not lost on us that where we need to be by the end of the year is different than where we started from a cash flow and a margin perspective. That includes cost reduction, discipline on wholesale, and discipline on retail. We obviously, you just mentioned Ohio. That's a big win for everybody. We're really excited about Ohio. We're focused on, the application is probably going to drop in early June, and we could potentially be in the market by the end of June.
Yeah.
We still have the application, but we'll be ready. I think people have highlighted they want to see how we perform out of the gate in Ohio relative to Maryland and New Jersey. We've done a lot to catch up in both of those markets. New Jersey's got a lot of momentum for us, but Ohio is going to be a great opportunity for us to, again, put some wins on the board from a margin that's going to be organic revenue growth. But again, what we're focused on this year is margin discipline, margin enhancement, and cash flow generation.
Jesse, you want to add to that? Like, I know there's this Ohio news is great. Was that something you were anticipating to hear, to come as a surprise? And is there anything you want to add to what David just said?
No, I mean, look, I think David covered it really well. The reality is, obviously, we're excited about Ohio. We spoke about it on the call. We're prepared. The team's been leaning in. We've been building inventory in preparation for it. We were cautiously optimistic, I think is probably the right way to put it, that this could be the case, that we were going to see something like a mid-June to early summer moment. And I think what we're seeing now is that that's a high likelihood of what's going to happen here. So I think, look, we're prepared. We don't know exactly how it plays out yet. I think everyone's going to figure it out as they go. But the things that we can do to be fully prepared for it, the team is excited. The facility's dialed in. We've increased capacity. We have another increase that's happening as we speak right now to make sure that we've got as much garden online as possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a really interesting position. We've talked about that before. I would say overall, this is a capacity constrained environment upon conversion to adult use. Population wise, it's not dissimilar to something like in Illinois or it's larger than New Jersey. Like there's some things that you can point at. The facilities are not there as far as just the overall size and breadth of that footprint upon immediate. We have a nice footprint there. We have a fairly large facility. There's a couple of others in the state as well, but it's nothing like, if memory serves, when we were looking at the conversion for Illinois and others, it's nothing like some of the infrastructure that was there. So I think what you're going to see is a really, really healthy wholesale market right off the bat, which we're excited to participate in. We already participate in it now. I think you're going to see a healthy business. I think you're going to see the nice increase overall, like we see in other markets upon conversion. I think it'll be a slower downward trend, a slower compression trend in Ohio than we've seen in others when it comes to the actual pricing of flower.
Huh.
When we were talking about those green shoots on the earnings call, and we talk about margin expansion, I guess as an overall theme as it relates to the wholesale business via finished products. I mean, is that being mainly driven by the brand partnerships with the likes of Aero, Ciencia, Old Pal that you've been announcing and working on, as well as the branded products from the Cannabist in those markets?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start. I'll let Jesse get into some of the details on the partnership side. We have a focus of, the absorption accounting headwind we had went from, 5 points to 4.2, right? So we saw a nice change sequentially quarter over quarter. That's a combination of not only the partnerships, but also just a more focused effort on moving weight on the wholesale side with our own finished products. So brands on shelf. And so we have seen green shoots. We've got a dedicated infrastructure. We've got a dedicated team, which we didn't have a year ago. Jesse's been building that wholesale team for the last 6 months. So we're starting to see the benefits of that. But the third-party partnerships are definitely part of the overall strategy we have in wholesale for a variety of reasons, which I think Jesse can speak to.
I think if you don't understand the nuances of our industry and our business, you don't actually understand how valuable those third-party partnerships can be with not only being, accretive to top line, but also to margin, right? Our partnerships are structured in a way where, I think they're fair on all sides, but they do create significant advantage for us in the wholesale marketplace. We are taking flower and flower byproduct and concentrate-based products that historically have gone into either first-party brands or more realistically into bulk trade and into sort of that excess crop. We're now moving that into finished goods. And whether it's through first party or third party, the margin profile in that business is significantly better than historically what was done. So we are still building our first party brands. If you look at the overall concentration of first party versus third party and what we sell holistically across the country in national footprint, we're overwhelmingly first party. But we do have some great third party brands now that have joined that roster that are expanding quickly. They're eating up more capacity. They're putting us in a position where we're having to expand capacity to deal with some of the problems that David was alluding to. And they're great brands. People want to buy them. They command a premium on pricing in market. So the margins are fantastic.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was that's kind of what I was thinking was contributing to that margin expansion, especially with the rhetoric from the earnings call. Last week, we started to see some rumblings out of New York. From my understanding or from what we've seen, Manhattan, the medical location has shut down and Brooklyn has been reduced to 2 days a week. I mean, run me through the current strategy in New York and feel free to add any color as per what is actually going on in that market as of today and what we should expect to see potentially moving forward.
So first of all, I mean, the entire state was affected. So it wasn't just those two locations. The two locations that you referenced, a bit unique. So Manhattan was actually, we're coming up on a lease. It is not an ideal space moving forward. If we were to convert to adult use, that is just not the right location. There was some conversations back and forth around what the cost was going to be moving forward in that space. It just became not viable as a location. So we have begun the search for a new Manhattan location. The team's working in as best we can. I mean, you can imagine some of the things that you run into in trying to find a great adult use location at this point inside of our sort of zoned area in Manhattan. So we're working through that. Brooklyn, Rochester, Riverhead, different. We pulled back hours in each of those locations, and each of those were done based on the amount of patients that we were serving, what that looked like with regards to how we felt we could most efficiently serve the existing medical base for patients, and right-sizing the cost. Look, the New York business for us right now, not a great retail business.
Yeah.
Okay? We don't participate in adult use. Let's call it what it is, right? You just saw people are getting ousted as of Friday at the program. The state botched this. They destroyed the opportunity for a successful rollout of this program. And the collateral from that is lack of safe and tested product across the state in the way that it should be right now for consumers. And it's teams like ours that are trying to do things the right way, that are showing up to work and working in the compliant framework that are affected by this. There's over 1,000 illicit and gray market stores that are still operating in the state. I know they're cracking down, but it is what it is. And yet our team shows up, tries to do the right thing. And now we, as responsible parties for running the business, have to right-size the cost. We're not exiting New York. We're not closing these locations forever moving forward. There's been questions that have been asked online, like, will you scale hours back up if things change? Absolutely. Like that is what that retail is there for, is that if we can get to a place where we can convert into an adult use framework that isn't as punitive or prohibitive as what the state has offered right now, we would of course ramp back up. Our employees that exist today, would they be welcomed back into the family moving forward? Absolutely. Like these are all things, we didn't want to do this, but if you're trying to run a responsible,
you need to.
This was literally the only option. We held out as long as we could. I think we are one of the last registered operators to pull back hours. I think that is not new to the market over the last few months. So we did everything that we could to keep access as open as we possibly could for both our team and our patients. It got to the point where we literally had no choice. We have to right size it so that we can preserve the optionality moving forward in New York. And patient outreach will begin now over the coming weeks as those changes take effect, both offering them the opportunity to come into the modified hours so that they can still have access to their medicine inside of our platform, or providing them with the closest proximity other medical, even if it's another company, just making sure that they have every option. We also shut down New York home delivery. I mean, this was a complete operational change to the business that had nothing to do with a single location.
And there's a lot more nuance to that than just what the headline was last Thursday or Friday, it seems. It's affected the entire state. Yeah.
Well, I think people are going to speculate, right? When they see and hear any kind of news like that. But the reality is that you're not saying no to New York. It's just from a business operations standpoint, timing's everything. And right now, there are certain things that are beyond your reach, right?
We were the first operational RO in New York, I believe. We have made every bet possible into that state. Some of our largest infrastructure on the East Coast is sitting out in Long Island. We have done everything that we can to both be excited and supportive of a New York program that could have been one of the most transformational in the country. And instead, we're sitting here talking about us having to pull back hours to balance the business, which affects our team and our patients. It sucks.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to say, you had outlined Colorado, Maryland, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia as your top 5 markets for revenue and for EBITDA. There are some other keystone markets that are within the footprint that some people would expect to be showing up in that top 5. Should we be looking at an overall theme for, let's say, the rest of this year into like right sizing the business, making some difficult decisions, and reducing the footprint to actually increase overall profitability and growth on a go-forward basis in the markets that you're actually succeeding in as it stands today?
Yeah, I think what you can see from us is a disciplined approach to looking at our entire portfolio and to look at where we're underperforming or underscaled relative to the opportunity costs elsewhere. And commensurate with that is the opportunity to scale down the overall business, right, in terms of the expense profile. So we just want to be very thoughtful about, look, phase 1 was the opportunity across the country. We were very good at opening facilities, winning licenses, making acquisitions. Now we understand sort of what the playing field looks like for the next few years. And we just need to focus our attention and effort on things that are going to drive the most value to shareholders. So we just need to be thoughtful about what we look like as a company going forward. It's not only geography, right? It's also just how we run this business. We're using different technology, more technology. There are opportunities across the board. We continue to find them. We're changing the culture to look more inward, to make decisions, to be proactive at finding efficiencies and cost savings opportunities. That is the theme for 2024. And it takes a few quarters for everybody in the organization to recognize that's what good is, and that's how you become great, is to focus on the details at every facility, back of house, and at the dispensary level.
Well, we all know in the early days, it was about planting your flag here, there, and everywhere. Those days are gone. But focus on your strengths. And again, that's kind of the message I keep hearing from both of you over and over. Yes, tough decisions to be made, but we're also looking at some very lucrative states that you operate in that Anthony just highlighted. But Jesse, this goes off of what I said off the top. This is all part of the plan. So again, to our viewers, like, express, how confident you are, at least, how you envision as to how the plan is going, how it's developing. And are you on track with everything that you envisioned when, like I said, you and David took over?
I mean, we're like 120 days in to the change in leadership in the company. I can't believe the amount of things that have either been done or are in process right now. And that's a credit to the team that we're surrounded by. That has nothing to do with us, right? We gave the mandate and we said, let's review everything. Let's get aggressive. Let's not take anything for granted. There is no status quo moving forward. David went on a listening tour. We had a lot of conversations with investors, with shareholders, with analysts, with anyone who would talk to us. And the themes that came out of that made it very clear to us what needed to change. The core of this business moving forward is amazing. I feel great about a number of the catalysts in the states, et cetera, that we have in front of us, right? So I love where we're at as far as the go forward. Our difficulty right now, our task is navigating the short term and right-sizing and readjusting this company and this business so that it can thrive. So that moving into 2025, when David says on calls, we're going to have a fundamentally different business by the end of this year, moving into 25, we still believe that can absolutely be the case. And if we do that, what is left is an incredibly exciting, very profitable, trending in the right direction business that could exist as long as we execute on what's in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the footprint. There's a lot to get excited about purely in Ohio, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. And there's still other markets that you're in that are highly lucrative and that are exciting from a growth perspective. I guess on an ending note, I mean, I know you finished the quarter with, I think it was 44.5 million in cash. From a shoring up the balance sheet perspective, I mean, are there any maturities that are looming here in the short term? And I mean, do you guys foresee a capital raise or any sort of conversions coming up here in the next couple quarters?
Yeah. So right now, we're about to satisfy the May maturity, right? That's getting paid off as we speak. And we've given ourselves runway. The next maturity is not until the middle of 2025, right? So after that, it's early 2026. So we've given ourselves the runway to execute the strategy that we've laid out. And I think as this evolves, we can be more transparent. You'll see events, you'll see changes in our business that will help give people the reassurance that we're moving this in the right direction. It's a big ship and it doesn't happen in one quarter. Again, to Jesse's point, we're surrounded by a team that wants to win, wants to move as quickly as we're asking everybody to move. That's the good thing. We just need to get it done.
Okay.
There is fast and there's cannabis fast, right?
A lot of people forget from 2017 to 2019, it was license, plant a flag, license, plant a flag. I mean, it wasn't let's go into a market, let's get it right and then operate. It was just grow. And I mean, you see the same thing in tech. I mean, I'm sure you could speak to this, Jesse, how tech companies, they find something, they grow. If it doesn't work, let's get out of it, make it more efficient and revisit it down the road. It's all natural in the business process.
When you're working in an industry like this or tech or anything else early, where growth is at an unbelievable pace, but so is change, you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to test and iterate. You have to be able to sort of very quickly, you have to fail fast. If you can get comfortable with failing fast, you can build an enormous amount of success in chaotic and transformational ecosystems, but you have to be willing to fail fast. You can't fall in love with things. If it works, great. If it doesn't, let's move on. Let's try something else. I think that's the sort of culture that we're breeding internally. I think that's what people are buying into. And I really do feel when you talk about confidence, I really do feel that's absolutely why we're probably quietly as confident as we are behind the scenes about how we can transform this business. And I did see in the comments, Christopher, favorite strain would be anything a little bit more on the up. So green crack, old school lemon sour diesel, anything like that. I'm not much of an indica guy, but our Illinois facility was doing a Velvet Glove 4, which was bananas last year. So check it out if you're in the area.
One thing I'll ask you guys before you leave, there was a great question actually earlier. The biggest difference between this industry for you, Jesse, and from when you worked at Red Bull, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you can relate to, but there's a lot of big changes in what you found and learned. And the same thing for you, David, with your previous career as to where you are now. Jesse, I'll start with you.
So look, my engagement with Christopher was like, I've been called out. Well, you asked, bro. And I love that you said I don't look like a stoner. That's kind of the point. Previous industry, I had a really cool seat for those because I never worked for Red Bull. I never worked for NBC or for Toyota or for Honda or any of those brands. I was on sort of like their agency and technology side. Correct. So we were building solutions for them. We were working directly with some of the smartest people at those companies, watching how they thought about the world, watching how they thought about brand building, watching how they thought about deploying capital. And so being there early, you got to sort of absorb and see a lot of these really interesting moments. I think that this industry, I've said it before, and it almost sounds dumb, like if you don't give it context. I see a ton of similarities between cannabis right now and what we saw in early social. Okay. And that is that in early social media, it was almost shocking how unbelievably young and nascent, not enterprise, the solutions and the companies were that were servicing, right? Like you went to Facebook early on and it was like, wait, there's how many engineers here? And it's 100 million, 200, 500 million users, right? And just continue to grow and explode from there. And so our industry is very similar. It's like, wait, we're doing what? Like we're serving how many consumers? That's going to grow how much over the next 5 years? And you look at how early we still are into figuring things out. I mean, literally an Apple store and a dispensary are some of the only retail environments that you can go into right now and see every walk of life, obviously age gated inside of a dispensary, but see every walk of life, and everyone is buying the same product and using it in a way that's similar, but for a slightly different end outcome, right? That's unbelievable to be able to see, to witness that for the second time in my career. I just feel incredibly fortunate, but you learn a lot of lessons. And I think that's what we're trying to bring to things now.
Yeah. Well, this has been good. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, the only thing I would relate is on the investing side, we're going from like an index fund to a value focused fund where you're actually looking at specific value going forward of where do you want to actually spend your time, money, and energy. Yeah. And on the healthcare investing side was very different, very regulated, very structured. The number of things we see every day that we can do to improve this business, to innovate, to change the velocity and the trajectory of our business, I've never seen anything like it. It's a good thing and a bad thing because you do have to prioritize, but the opportunity to influence an industry and an organization, I have not been exposed to. It's incredible.
Yeah. Welcome to Cannabis, where you need to start a company, raise money, take it public, and then exceed, have consistency, and then sell it before the day's done, right?
Yeah.
That's Tuesday.
And then there's people questioning why it took so long, right? But anyways, gents, good job. Honestly,
thanks, guys.
Appreciate always talking to both of you. I know there's great direction that you guys are providing, but hopefully our viewers got some great feedback from you guys, but good direction, and let's keep in touch.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, David. Thanks, Jesse.
Talk to you guys.
Good group of guys there, that's for sure. But yeah, they're addressing everything. They're not hide behind anything, being transparent and realizing what needs to happen next. But you can see what they're doing to obviously right the ship. And like you said earlier, planting flags everywhere. That's not the case anymore. We're going to focus on key markets. And I think the big takeaway is to remember is they're in key markets, right?
They're in some very strong markets. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Ohio, PA, and VA are enough to get me excited about their footprint with these concentration of stores, the cultivation footprint that they have, and just how those markets look.
Yeah. All right. let's move along. Segment number 2. We're now going to bring in the CEO of Curaleaf, Matt Darin, who's been waiting about a half an hour at Billy's Crab Shack for us. But here we are. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Billy's Crab Shack sounds good right about now. So, yeah.
What's going on, sir?
Hey, Anthony, how you doing?
Good. Are you?
I'm great.
Well, it's good to see you. And I do like the comment that Boris made. No longer a multi-state operator, but a multi-country operator. First off, that grabbed a lot of people's attention. What'd you think of that?
I love it. I got to give Boris credit. It's a good tagline, and it's true. So that makes it even better. I mean, we are truly the first multi-country operator who I think is building a really unique supply chain to be, taking a lot of the lessons we learned in the U.S. over the last decade to build kind of a vertical supply chain, but to be able to deploy it globally across all these different countries. Nobody else is doing it like we are. So we're pretty excited.
I think we got to put things into perspective. Remember the days where we wished for $100 million quarters, and it's like, time flies. We forget about that. But here you are. Latest numbers included $339 million in revenue in Q1, which was a 2% increase year over year. The adjusted gross margin was 48%, which maintained stability compared to the same period last year. The adjusted EBITDA for the quarter was noteworthy at $77 million, accounting for 23% of revenue, which marks a 40 basis point improvement from the previous year. So with this improvement, Matt, what does this, I guess, signify when it comes to operations and cost structure? Because a strong quarter, I would say.
Yeah, so we've talked about it. I think the trend line and the arrow continues to point up, both from a growth standpoint on the revenue side with exposure to the catalyst that we're now finally experiencing. We talked a little bit on the call about New York. The headlines are negative, but the realities on the ground are that market is live, it's active. There's over 100 licensed dispensaries today. The wholesale opportunities are ample. They're still going to take time to develop, but you have a catalyst like that we waited years on that is finally popping. So things like that, and now you got Ohio coming. They announced today the reg there, so that market's going to launch here in the next few months. So that's exciting. And then more on the horizon. And then, of course, overseas, Germany, Pillar 1, definitely exceeding expectations in the early days there, only 5-6 weeks into Pillar 1, but excited there. So I think on the revenue standpoint, the catalysts are starting to hit. And on the margin standpoint, as we've talked about, continued opportunity to grow margins through greater absorption of the fixed assets that we have, continuing to increase production and get greater throughput through automation and just through demand in the marketplace, and continued control on spending and SG&A to ensure that we're holding the line and continuing to drive margin improvements, which we know we can.
Yeah, I think the New York expansion, and that really grabbed a lot of people's attention. I know when I was speaking to both you and Boris back in, what was it, December, when you listed on the TSX, you talked about, even the wholesale opportunity in the state, and especially in the city of Manhattan, if there one day that indeed these black market dispensaries get flipped to the legal side, that takes time. But what are you seeing right now that made you think we got to enter into this market now versus, say, like other companies that aren't?
So I would say we were always committed to New York. The company has been based in New York. We've made a lot of investments. We had expanded our cultivation facility and outside of Albany in anticipation of adult use. I mean, that's one of the lessons that we have learned with prior launches is being ready for the adult use launch and hit that impact. We have felt is the best place to be, and so we did that in New York. Now it took a lot longer than we would have hoped, due to the delays from the OCM and litigation and things of that nature. But we knew the market was going to be there. It's going to be a $5 billion market we expect in time, and it's just going to take a little bit of time to develop. But I think it's encouraging to see, first of all, the number of dispensaries that are getting open and that are getting licensed. There's been a big backlog of people that are waiting to get through the regulatory process. That's now happening. There's approvals happening every single month. And so that, backlog of stores getting open is happening. And look, we look to other markets, New Jersey, Illinois. It took a long time to get those stores open, but now they're there and they're creating a ton of wholesale opportunities. So that's happening in New York. Now they're a little bit earlier stage of getting that done, but it's happening. You're also seeing a crackdown on the illicit storefronts. Finally, it is happening. They're padlocking doors of dispensaries in Manhattan. So I think finally there's enough bad PR about what's taking place in the city. It's been an embarrassment, to the state of New York, that finally they're getting serious about cracking down there, which is going to help the regulated market. And so I think, we expected it always to happen. We were committed to it from the beginning, and, it definitely took longer than we would have hoped, but now it's here.
Speaking of other markets, Florida, you guys have 61 retail locations. I know that we're both down in the South. How do you see, or what's your beat on Florida going into 3 in November? And I mean, are there any things or any kind of key learnings or color you can share about the consumer in the Florida market right now, as that potentially is on the horizon, on the verge of adult use conversion?
Yeah, so look, we're super excited to participate in Smart and Safe. We're very committed, and beginning to spend a lot of time, as well as financially committed to the campaign there. It's a 60% bar, as we know. That's getting 60% of Americans to decide on anything is not easy. But we think activating the medical patient community that already exists in Florida, which is almost 900,000 people in the state of Florida, combined with the Get Out the Vote campaign that we are going to be embarking on here, along with a lot of other companies and stakeholders. We feel confident that ultimately the voters of Florida want to see adult use cannabis get legalized, and ultimately there's the support there. But there's no doubt it's going to require a lot of work. It's going to require a lot of getting out the vote campaign. I think a Trump versus Biden ticket is not necessarily exciting the young people to get out to the campaign, get out to the polls in November. So there's going to be work to be done that educating that they can vote for legal cannabis. Having abortion on the ballot, we believe is certainly going to motivate more people, to get out to the polls. And so, it's definitely it's a high bar, but we think it's going to happen, because we and others are very, very focused and committed to ensuring that the people get out to vote. And if they do, do
you see this market, being Florida, as one of the main focuses of CapEx spending in 2024? And I mean, if so, does that include any expansion of cultivation, or like leveraging automation to ultimately expand margins in this market from a products perspective?
I do think so. Yeah, I think it's probably hard to find anywhere in the country or the world that you could justify a better ROI than adult use in Florida, going from a $2.5 billion medical market to what many think will be ultimately a $6 billion market, plus with the 22 million residents and 135 million tourists every single year. And so so we had already embarked on continuing to invest in Florida through cultivation expansion. We had slowed that down, waiting to see if it was going to get on the ballot. Now that it's there, we're continuing to invest. Nowadays we've learned a lot on this, able to build out these facilities in a modular format where you can do it in segments and really build as the demand develops. And so that's a similar mentality of what we're doing, but yeah, we see opportunities there. Same thing on the retail footprint, continuing to make sure that we're filling in the pockets of the state that are less saturated, and opportunities that we see there. So, and we're going to continue to invest, but do it in a way that's smart, so that we're not getting overextended, because the medical, with 630 dispensaries in the medical market today, there's a high store count for a medical market.
And I mean, but there, obviously we want to dive into Europe, and we want to dive into the tax strategy moving forward. There was one thing on the earnings call that really stuck out to me, and it was the hemp-derived beverages getting Select, envisioning Select like being on the shelf in like a Publix or like a Total Wine. It's kind of like you just jumped out of from the dispensary to maybe grocery in terms of brand recognition on a go-forward basis. I mean, I'm assuming you guys make very calculated decisions when it comes to launching a product. Are you seeing that these beverages are here to stay, and like the Farm Bill's not potentially going to radically change the way intoxicating hemp-derived products are classified currently? Because I think it's a huge win for Select to be in that beverage category ultimately.
Yeah, so look, the regulatory, forecasting exactly what's going to happen, related to any changes to the Farm Bill, et cetera. A lot of different perspectives on ultimately what that's going to look like. What we see today and for the foreseeable future is that this hemp market continues to expand. It's something that we've been keeping an eye on for a few years now, kind of have been watching. And we've done work previously in the CBD space, and so it was somewhat familiar to us from prior experience. We've had various beverage products in the dispensary market, and beverages really never have taken off in a major way in dispensaries because of many reasons that we've talked about, just in terms of not being sufficient distribution to really make mainstream through dispensaries. That's flipped today. Now the activity going on to be able to sell direct to consumer online into certain states that are allowing it. Not every state's allowing it, but there's something like half the states that we think are compliant at this point, as well as in the edible space. Being able to do it direct to consumer and through distribution into conventional retail, places like Total Wine that have been doing tests with some success. We see it as a real growth category and kind of an adjunct to what we've been doing the last 10 years. And we think it's an interesting space. It's hard to quantify exactly how big the market is today because it's not really tracked like most of the state regulated markets. But there's no question the market is growing from talking to market participants and many others. And ultimately, we want our brands like Select to be available where consumers are shopping for, cannabis and THC products. And we're building global brands. And if we can have our brands on the shelves of places like Total Wine, we want to be there.
Yeah,
Matt, I got to ask you. We get this question asked. We get this question asked from time to time, and it's just, I'll be honest with you. Love the company, love the operations, love the revenue producing, concerned about the amount of outstanding shares. Do you get asked that question a lot or from time to time with investors? And if so, how do you address it?
So I think we would address it, ultimately, we're a growth company. This is a growth industry. This is the early days of this industry globally. And that's really our focus is ultimately, creating the most valuable company with the brands and products that consumers are going to want across the world, and continuing to focus on investing in that and, investing in going to new markets, investing into innovation, and all those different things that, require capital, certainly doing it in a very judicious way where we're focused on ROI and everything that we do. But, I think that's really our focus, today, and deriving shareholder value and driving more value through creating a more valuable company ultimately that we can scale globally.
And 339 million reasons why to back that up in this latest quarter, right?
Exactly. And again, I think it's an exciting time because I think these catalysts that this industry has always been driven by catalysts. First of all, states that legalizing for medical, then states going from medical to adult use. Now you've got countries legalizing cannabis throughout the world in various stages. And what we find exciting is between markets like New York, Germany, Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania is on the horizon. There's a lot of growth to be had here in a major way. And so this is still the early innings of as much as it's been 10 years, and we've all got a lot of war stories. Those of us that have been in it for that long, it is very much early days, and the opportunities abound. And I think Curaleaf and has really spent a lot of time continuing to build a great foundation and ensuring that we've got a really efficient, clean operation that we're running, so that ahead of these catalysts, that ultimately, as the markets develop, we're there. We've already invested and we're ready to deploy.
Well, go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to say, speaking about Europe, know that Europe was a large part of the conference call. Europe is obviously a key differentiator in Curaleaf's business model compared to your peers. With Pillar 2 potentially getting fast tracked and Pillar 1 rolling out a couple months ago, are there any key learnings or anything interesting that you've seen from that market in terms of I guess flashing signals for growth going into the future, or really it becoming a main driver of growth for the Curaleaf organization moving forward?
So I think what we're seeing early days in Germany is validating, what we had, expected and hoped for, which was there was a lot of pent up demand from Germans that wanted access to cannabis, and because of a variety of different reasons, but largely because it was on the narcotics list and was very hard for physicians to prescribe, there was a backlog of people that were not able to access the market. And what Pillar One did, removing it from our narcotics list, reducing those friction levels, and making it the timelines of when you could actually access the cannabis much quicker and much more available. We felt that that backlog was going to ultimately, become a flood of new activity pretty quickly. It's even exceeding our expectations in just a month, where we're seeing the counts and enrollment, I think, exceed probably everybody's expectations. So I think it's validation of what we were expecting, and looking at a country of 80 million people and knowing that there is a lot of demand for cannabis, and seeing the size of the medical market, which was a small fraction of a market like a Florida, and knowing how much growth was there. I would say it's validation of what we kind of pre-invested in, and what we're seeing. It's exciting because what we're seeing there is, the demand for high quality EU GMP certified flower, the demand for some of the other product categories that are going to be entering the market is there. And it's a matter of just allowing the market to ramp and allowing the market to develop. And again, building those brands, building that, customer affinity, where they come in to see their physician, they're asking for, in the German case, 420 Pharma product, which is our premium brand there. And ultimately, as more products get developed, they'll be asking for Select and Grassroots, et cetera.
We were in Washington last month, and I was astonished with some of the stuff that I learned as to how, just uninformed a lot of politicians are with regards to rescheduling and just safe banking in general. Do you find, what can you learn or at least share with us when it comes to politicians in Germany? How much is a focal point and priority is this whole cannabis initiative amongst many lawmakers within the actual government of Germany, and how it's progressing?
It has been a big area of focus. It's gotten so much media attention there. There's been, so much debate and question regarding Pillar One, Pillar Two, understanding kind of how it's going to interact with some of the, international treaties, et cetera. So there's been a lot of attention on it. Just like, in every, political environment, there's supporters and detractors and that. But I think there was, as you saw with the votes that took place, there was widespread support for really expanding medical cannabis through this Pillar One approach. And so I think the level of awareness and knowledge in terms of that, it was good to see, and the level of engagement in that. And I think some of our U.S. politicians, it would be great to continue to get them there. I've spent a lot of time in DC, as is our team, and it is amazing. We realize we live in a bit of an echo chamber in terms of this industry, and what you would think people would have exposure to from reading the newspapers and from be generally aware of what's going on in the communities and in the states and online and all that. Yet there's a lot of misinformation and lack of understanding about the various legislative approaches and what's really going on kind of in the states, et cetera. So it's going to continue to take time there.
It was an eye opener. You hear about it,
Yeah.
but when you're there and you actually get speaking to people, it's an eye opener. But I'm going to remain positive. We need to continue on with the message, because I do think that they'll get it, and they are getting it. So
they are getting it. I would remain positive as well, because I will say having been there, 5 years ago, you couldn't even get in the door. They had no interest in even taking a meeting. There was absolutely zero awareness that, cannabis even existed in any sort of regulated environment. Today, the fact that senators and the highest echelons of DC politics, are listening and want to understand, and many of them are engaged, and it is bipartisan. There's many Republicans that are equally wanting to understand how to pass sensible reform, and what rescheduling means, and what safer banking actually do to the industry. As much as it is surprising at times, kind of the lack of awareness of some of the details here. The fact the level of I think access and exposure has increased substantially. We got to continue to build on that, because even with major federal catalysts, this will continue to be kind of a major role of the industry to continue to advance and educate and build more credibility and awareness of this industry.
Moment of truth time. Do you believe rescheduling does happen? Like the official ruling before the election?
I do. Yeah, I think the process is ongoing. It's ongoing kind of as expected. For those of us that have been tracking it closely, and we do expect that ultimately the DEA will and the Department of Justice and all the different stakeholders are going to finish off this process and get through the whole logistics and administrative role here, and ultimately move cannabis to Schedule 3, which is where it belongs.
Yeah, good to know. Listen, appreciate the time. Thanks for checking in. Let's keep in touch, okay?
Absolutely.
We get that ruling. I know where we're going. Billy's Crab Shack.
Sign me up. I will meet you there. Absolutely. So,
oh man.
All right. Thank you guys.
Right. Thanks, Matt. Talk soon.
It's a lot of information, but very good to say the least. But interesting take on both the international and domestic market, and his take on Washington as well. But man, we're 45 minutes in, and I know this guy's been waiting behind the scenes for the afternoon. So, Ahrens, cue the music. You know what time it is? It's MSO Mondays with Dan Ahren. Let's go. DA in the house. How are you, my friend? Oh, I think you're on mute.
You're on
mute. Oh, shit, he says.
My bad. Sorry, guys.
There he is.
I'm doing well.
Dallas Mavericks. They up.
Yeah, didn't realize you were wearing
my Mavs tonight.
You're wearing the Mavericks shirt.
2-1, 2-1 or 2-2.
It's 2-1. 2-1 right now. Tonight's game is in Dallas, so I'm expecting another victory.
They look good. They look damn good.
Yeah, they do. Luka is all beat up and injured, though. He
seems like he always is.
Yeah, he's kind of a warrior, but he also cries a lot. But
Kyrie is playing amazing right now.
That guy is mad skills.
Mr. Victor says, no, dude, OKC. That poor kid got robbed of the MVP. I'm with Shaq. That kid.
Who, Shy?
Yes. Yeah. I think so. OKC is going to win.
We shall see.
Yeah. Listen, I was doing a little bit of research here today, and I noticed it's been about 5 months since you're on Yahoo Finance, where you're quoted as saying that you believe the cannabis sector can be the best performing sector of 2024. So what's today, May 13th? We're getting closer to the midway point of 2024. Yeah. Do you still live by those words? And if you had to look back at the first 5 months, as much as we want all these things to transpire and materialize, as we've said last week, I think there was somebody that commented they were up how much with TrueLeaf. Like we've seen some improvement. So do you back up everything that you just said 5 months ago?
Yeah, we're just talking about industries, sectors, and part of the reason I said that is I'm expecting federal reform, and 2, we were down in the gutter for 3 years. I mean, Cannabis Stocks as a whole, the fund and the overall space was beat up into oblivion.
Yep.
So, it's still mostly OTC in these US stocks. It's going to be volatile as hell. Everybody got to remember that. This is not easy, but we're up more than 30% year to date. People have to learn to take that and accept that and be happy with it. Do I think we have a long way to go still to get back to, a lot of people's bag holding? Absolutely. But I'm not going to be surprised at all if we end the year as the top industry / top sector performer. So with a lot of bumps in between.
Yeah. We've been down that road before. We're getting a lot of feedback on basketball stuff. T-Wolves, baby. What else are we getting? Mike Tyson is going to destroy Jake Paul. Nothing really cannabis related. Is that
that's probably a valid statement. I hope he does.
Yes.
Were you at Jason Wild's place last year when Ric Flair and Mike Tyson rolled in?
Oh man, I was talking to Jason. He wanted us to go. We got exhausted and just went to the bar instead. We didn't go, and then I saw the pictures from Jason's house with Ric Flair and Mike.
So I used to ring announce. I went up to Tyson. He was smoking a joint. He coughed on his smoke. He's laughing so hard, and then on like the flick of a switch, he looked at me and he goes with a serious face, "Now go away."
Jason told me, he goes, "God, I kept telling those guys, no smoking in the house, no smoking in the house. They wouldn't listen."
Mike, I need you to step outside. Like that ain't happening.
Yeah, they walked in with an entire entourage.
Yeah,
it was
because they can.
And because they can, that's for sure. I have no idea what he's getting paid for that fight, but I'm sure it is a lot. What do you guys want to address this week? I know, it's interesting what Matt said. Charlie Bachtel even said it a week and a half ago that he firmly believes that a DEA ruling will be announced prior to the election, which is encouraging, but it still doesn't answer a lot of the questions. There's going to be no uplisting, so therefore there's not a lot of new money that'll be involved within this industry. But Anthony, you actually learned a few things over the weekend about pertaining to big alcohol. Like, do you think they get in, and do you think they are going to wait until there's full on legalization? Like, what's your take on it?
That's actually a pretty good point, Shad, that I completely forgot to bring up on the show. No, I was with some people over a couple days last week that, it's kind of, as it comes to the lawmakers, they basically have a red light, green light as it relates to the liquor companies. And as far as like that lobby goes, and I mean, that lobby runs deep, that lobby's generational wealth in America. And I mean, if and when they say go, you're going to see everything just snowball. But they want in. They want into this. They built generational wealth on the backs of the alcohol industry. They're very intelligent people with deep resources. They understand what's here and what's coming in cannabis. It's inevitable. And those big players are going to have a share of this industry. And if they do, if and when they do, we should see reform and just regulations just completely start to steamroll. But they're a gatekeeper. And unfortunately, that's kind of just the way the world works. Especially as it relates to politics.
So is it more
like
are they waiting for legalization, or they're just getting their ducks in a row, and even if legalization doesn't happen first, they're going to jump in regardless?
One of the main kickers that I heard from big alcohol's perspective is if you look on the back of a beer and you look on the back of a bottle of liquor, there is an FDA warning on that product. That is the green light. If and when they can get that warning label from the FDA, they'll enter. They need that. They need the regulations, and they need the sign off or the warning to be applicable from the FDA, analogous to what you see on a bottle or a can of alcohol. And that is when they are comfortable to enter the market.
And hey, to jump in here, what Anthony's saying is that's a long process, because everything's going to be a long process. And that's one of the later steps. I've talked a lot about a domino process that I think is going to get kicked off once we get this next announcement about rescheduling. But good God, guys, there are so many steps and so much.
But Dan, how does this play out any differently? Like, okay, we got the wire announcement from 2 weeks ago about rescheduling. Stocks ripped that day, retracted crazy the next day. If we get an official ruling, I don't know, let's say the third week of September, how does this play out differently? Like, am I missing something here? Like, if we're not going to get any new money in and we're drying up as far as liquidity is concerned, am I reading it wrong? Am I looking at this wrong?
Well, see, now we're getting into opinions and things like this.
Very much so.
Yeah. So in Dan's humble opinion here, when we get the next announcement that makes it official, because remember we got that announcement, but then all kinds of weird little messages came out. Oh, Ann Milligram didn't sign the letter.
Yeah.
Does it really need to be signed?
It's official.
Did the DEA really do it? So once we get that next leg, I think stocks are going to rip. And we don't know when that's coming. It could come this week. It could come next week. It could come next month. It could be a couple months. There's going to be a pullback because people are going to say, oh, shit, what do you mean there's a public comment period? What kind of messages are going to be coming out of Sam? And then are we going to get that Garland memo at the same time? Or is the Garland memo going to come at the end of the comment period?
Yeah.
Or when's it coming? Nobody really knows. Then what's happening with SAFE? Are the Dems going to block it because they want hope? And is that just gaslighting? I mean,
Cory Booker lying down for it.
So these are all going to be extreme volatility in the meantime.
Yeah.
And remember, I think these things have a great deal of upside when things become announced officially.
Yeah.
But does that make Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, B of A, does that make UBS? Does that make all these companies suddenly be able to custody this stuff? Hell no. No, because it's not listed yet. Do I think all those things are going to lead to? I think the rescheduling is really, really going to lead to being able to uplist on NASDAQ and NYSE, because NASDAQ and NYSE want that. They're willing to do that.
We're getting tons of feedback from a lot of different executives that say it doesn't fix the problem, but you do believe, go ahead.
With the other steps that are going to come, I think Schedule 3 does lead. Boris has said it. The New York Stock Exchange has said it, probably. But they got to have some safe harbor language.
Okay, so with a rescheduling and official ruling, we've kind of said, does it put the pressure on these? Like they don't really understand or to even pay attention, as you said, Anthony, to rescheduling. They will pay attention once it's announced. Like the different politicians that we spoke to in Washington when we asked.
Oh, it's not their sandbox. It's not their branch of government.
Not their sandbox, but it does become some of their sandbox in some ways if they're aware that this is finally reclassified.
I don't think they ever care about rescheduling.
No, but I'm saying, will they start to care about safe banking a little more, knowing that they're going to this is going to be front page news if there is rescheduling taking place?
I think Schedule 3, like Dan just said, Schedule 3 is the first domino in many dominoes that's going to set off a chain reaction. That's why the advocates out there that say descheduling or nothing, or people out there that saying like Schedule 3 is not enough. Schedule 3 is the first step. These systems that have been archaic for the last 5 decades, need to get incrementally reformed. It's not going to be all at once. Our government is way too screwed up to do that. And that would be way too utopian to think that we're just going to wake up one morning and everything's going to be descheduled, rescheduled, or whatever.
Agreed.
You get Schedule 3. I think that catalyzes safe. I think that ultimately catalyzes greater reform, depending on who's in the White House post the November election. And then it just keeps going from there. If you look back to 2014, the cannabis industry globally has not really taken many steps back. It's only taken steps forward, with the exception of Thailand, the prime minister there just keeps saying he's going to recriminalize cannabis. We have not, as an industry, from a global perspective, taken a single step back.
I agree with that 100%. 100%, Anthony.
With the handle deschedule now doesn't agree with me. I wouldn't think you would agree with me, to be completely honest, respectfully.
I think once the Schedule 3 gets done, if it gets done in a time frame before the election, Trump's not going to walk it back. It's a low, it's a low level issue for him. He doesn't really care. He's not strongly on either side of it. He's said publicly that he's in favor of medical. But if that gets done, I agree with Anthony 100%. There's no turning back. But I want to warn everybody, it is going to take a while, and there's going to be so many steps. One of them is going to lead to the uplisting, and one of them is going to lead to those stocks no longer being blocked at brokerages and banks nationwide.
Yep.
It's going to take a while. Lots of ups and downs in the meantime.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be like we are really still in the first inning of this thing, and we've been doing this for a very long time now.
Midnight Right. Schedule 3
to
is
be-
fully done in 2 years.
So I'm looking for I'm looking for the proposed ruling to hit the Federal Register officially. But what's really going to be game, set, match is if that OLC memo gets dropped in the register as well, because that is the hammer and the nail in one package. And it's going to tell you exactly what the DOJ, for the most part, is thinking and looking at towards the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
And it's a binding opinion for the most part.
TJ Sam exclusive writes, we need the next president to be pro cannabis and make fast forward this whole journey for us. You think?
I mean, I need a lot of things.
That's wishful thinking.
But yeah.
One thing we know is, and we were talking about this on the side today, Anthony, even like, let's say Donald Trump were to win the election, like that announcement alone will make the stock market rip. And I remember having that conversation last summer with Rob Seacrest. But go ahead. What were we going to say?
We'll see.
Don't agree with that?
We'll see.
I think the announcement itself, the market will perform very strong, but how long? Like, to your point, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, this has been good. I almost find these podcasts almost like therapy. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, we need to keep telling each other everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. I saw some of the banner on.
Just wait. Just wait to the comment period. I think people are going to lose their minds during the comment period. With what's going on.
Hey, and investors out there, traders, don't bitch. Take advantage of the opportunity if you get an opportunity. So it's going to be volatile. But when we get that announcement that Anthony just talked about, yeah, it's going to pop. It's going to pop. I'm looking for something solid. Yeah. And when we don't have those announcements on, days like today, days like last Friday and Thursday and Wednesday, no, it's going to trade sideways. It's going to be frustrating. There's going to be low volume. These stocks are easy to push around. And that crap is going to continue. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then it's going to rip when we get the next impetus, the next piece of news that can drive these things up.
Yeah.
Everybody last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was losing their damn minds.
Yeah, and what's it get you? It all comes out in the wash. It's no big deal.
Yeah. Correct. I know we touched on swaps last week. Anything else you want to address? Like, I know there's a few people talking on Twitter again. It gets a little crazy, obviously, online. But
hey, in our last annual report, semi-annual report, we've publicly disclosed that there's 2 counterparties right now. There could be more. I'm always talking to people. Those companies file 13 Gs when they own more than 5% of a company. There's different filing requirements. People have seen those filings. So yeah, they own the stocks to back up those swaps. They're very conservative, banks and brokerages that have risk departments. And those filings don't happen immediately. They don't update their holdings like we do every night on our website. But they own those swaps. And there's lots of market makers involved in these stocks. I have one little thought. I've heard some people say they are doing this or they are doing that, or there's manipulation, and no, these are still OTC traded stocks of low volume. They are not the highest priority to the biggest trading firms in the world. They are crap. I talk to people like Virtu and Susquehanna and Jane Street, and no, I can hear their eye rolls over the phone when they're talking. Oh, those are OTC traded cannabis stocks? No, they're low priority. They don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before I let you go, and there's somebody's actually, Tech Monkeys brought this up in a couple Mondays. I always forget afterwards, but PCIL. I know Lycos Therapeutics, they're waiting for their FDA feedback from their phase 3 trial regarding their MDMA protocol, slated for an announcement second week of August, as we've brought this up from time to time, but they've actually strengthened their management team. So it sounds like, you know, and it looks as if they're preparing, regardless of what the outcome is, that they believe that they will get approval. But again, as we say, don't sleep on this space, because an announcement of that magnitude comes out. Wow, this industry will wake up in a hurry as well. So a lot of catalyst moments pertaining to both cannabis and potentially psychedelics within the next 3 months.
Well, if you think cannabis is frustrating, invest in psychedelics. Right now, we have really the only psychedelics ETF in existence. There was a small one in Canada that got closed down and liquidated. The top holding right now is MindMed. We think the world of it. We're up big time in that stock, and that's why it's number one
They
holding.
had some incredible data. Probably.
Let's look at the news. So today, Oppenheimer adjusts Mind Medicine's price target all the way down to $20 a share from their previous target of $29 a share. The thing's trading at $8.45. It was down 8.75% today. That sucks for a top holding. And the price target is more than double what it is right now. Wow. But the top holding in the fund was down 8.75%. That's an example of the risk and volatility in psychedelics, and an example of what I think are extreme opportunities in psychedelics, because as you guys talk about, it is moving along very well. It's just a very different animal than cannabis, though. Cannabis is very largely about adult use, just like we got approved in Ohio. Psychedelics, no, we're not talking about adult use there. I know some places have decriminalized things like that.
This is biotech,
about
medical.
Real
This isn't about whether what state's going to legalize what. If somebody is actually on suicidal watch, they're going to get on a plane and fly across the country to get the proper therapy. But you can understand, like Prozac, what was that? A market cap of 110 billion. And that's like, think about that. And when you look at some of the data that's coming out, like, this is why it's so compelling. But the biggest challenge for retail investors in this day and age is patience and time. That's the thing that we challenge with. Michael Hillary writes, Shad, I swear you'd make an awesome villain in a big budget film, preferably a banker. That's a first, but I'll take it. All right, gents, we're an hour and 6 minutes in. I'll let you go. We got OKC in Dallas, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central time tonight. And then the Cavs and Celtics. I could not believe that game 2 where the Cavs beat them by 20.
Donovan Mitchell's out tonight. The Celtics are going to wax them.
Oh, I did not know that. Why is he out?
Yeah, and I have no idea. But my Panthers won last night, which is fantastic.
They're
we're on a collision course with the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup, which is going to be fun.
They're going to win the Stanley Cup. No one's beating the Florida Panthers.
I hope so. It'd be nice.
I heard the Cleveland Cavs were called a 8th grade team with one really good kid.
Oh, wow.
And really? I hope that one really good kid comes to Miami next year like he should have in the offseason last year and leaves the mistake on the lake. That'd be nice.
Is there rumors that Donovan Mitchell's heading to Miami?
Pat's going to get somebody. I think we trade Jimmy and wind up with a superstar.
Trade Jimmy.
I think Jimmy's gone. Pat literally was talking about how Jimmy's Pat doesn't say that unless you got one foot out the door. And they're not going to pay Jimmy $55 million to stay a year. So we'll see. But Donovan Mitchell was on the short list last year of guys that wanted to come down to South Beach. They just couldn't get it done.
Yeah. TDR, Traded Black Podcast, here on a Monday. Had Jesse and David on for the Cannabis, along with Matt Darin from Curaleaf, and as usual, our usual Monday MSO Mondays with Dan Ahren from Advisor Shares. Hope you guys all had some good interview and information that was shared with you guys here today. Let us know if there's anything that you want us to ask Dan or any of our guests here today, anything you want to talk about. Let us know your feelings. Let us know your thoughts. But listen, guys, appreciate obviously the time. Smash that like button and subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. We very much appreciate it. In the meantime, appreciate you guys both checking in here today, and we will check back in with you guys, Anthony, on Wednesday, and Dan, we'll see you next Monday. In the meantime,
absolutely.
Go Mavs for Dan, right?
Yeah.
All right. Take care. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.